That intro meant a lot to me growing up. Usually when I go back to a game that I played as a kid, I find that it's not as remarkable as I once thought it was. Most of them turn out to still be great games, but as I dig deeper and start to analyze, the flaws become more apparent and any nostalgia that I have for it begins to wear off. What I'm left with are games that I'm not entirely in love with anymore, but can still appreciate for what they accomplished at the time. But then there are times when I go back to a game and it turns out to be just as magical as I remember it. The more I inspect it, the more I discover from a game design perspective. I pick up on a wealth of things the developers did that passed way over my head as a child, and as a result, I gain an entirely newfound respect for it. For me, the MMO RuneScape is probably the most extreme example of this. And just to clear this up from the get-go, I do not mean the current state of the game, RuneScape 3. I am referring to what's now being called Oldschool Runescape, the servers that ran from 2004 to 2012, and most notably for what I consider to be its golden years, 2004 to 2007. RuneScape 3 is a fine game in of itself, but I think that it entirely misses what made the game so great in the first place. As a result, it became a product that barely resembles what I would truly call RuneScape. I think this is made evident based on the community reception throughout the years, and the fact that the old school servers that were put up by Jagex themselves has more players than the actual game. And I don't want to be rude, but that's just funny. I know a lot of people try to chalk that up to nostalgia, but nostalgia doesn't keep a game thriving and continuously growing for 4 years. Regardless, RuneScape was a loved game during its time, but oddly enough, it really doesn't seem that way when you look around in the gaming community. Whenever I find someone who used to play RuneScape when they were younger, it's always met with a hint of embarrassment. Oh, RuneScape? Yeah, I played that game a little bit when I was bored and had nothing else to do, you know? Yeah, I only played like 2,000 hours or whatever. Especially before the old school servers came out, it was very hard to find anybody who was no longer part of the community give any serious credit towards the game. And I think that there's a couple reasons for that. For starters, RuneScape was not a graphically superior game for its time. A lot of the classics we still talk about today were at the forefront of video game technology, and although the visual side is far from the only thing that made these games great, it made it a lot easier for people to identify it as being cool and modern. Another thing RuneScape has against it is that it's really not fun to watch. What made it a fun game was not easily communicated through its gameplay. You just couldn't put together some gameplay clips and get someone who hasn't played excited for it. A lot of RuneScape is just not very interesting to look at. Combine those two elements and you get what is probably one of the most unmarketable games of all time. So when you ask somebody about RuneScape, the embarrassment doesn't come up because they didn't enjoy it. It's because they can't find a reason to justify why they enjoyed it. A lot of people didn't know why they liked RuneScape. They just knew that they liked it, and I think that's what's gotten me so interested in it these past few years. I barely see anyone talking about what made RuneScape a great game. You would think that in the age of YouTube and gaming reviews, you would see more people discussing it analytically. There's dozens of videos talking about what made Ocarina of Time so great, and although that's obviously a much more iconic video game, you'd think that there'd be at least a few on RuneScape, but I can't seem to find any. And to me, that's pretty disappointing. I loved this game, and I want others to understand why this game was so loved, and why it was a success, and why the developers did certain things, and why this shitty little Java run game is still relevant. So today, I will be starting a series, The World of RuneScape. Over the course of the next forever, I'm going to talk about what made RuneScape what it is, what differentiates it from its successor, and in my opinion, what made it a better game overall. Some of you might still be like, dude, it's just nostalgia. Well, it's not, and I'm going to take an extremely long amount of time backing that up. There is a reason why there's 2 zeros in the title of this video. I'll be using the old school servers as a basis to illustrate my arguments, although this game isn't exactly what it was back in 2007. Most of the things that I say will apply to these servers, but there are going to be a number of things that only apply to the time period that I'm focusing on. I was considering making the first episode a retelling of RuneScape's history up until now, but there's already another channel by the name of Moat Please who's already done a good job at that. So if you're unfamiliar with the game and want a general recap of its past, you can watch the video in the description. It's not necessarily required, but I thought I'd make the suggestion for those who are curious. As for this channel, episode 1 will be a breakdown of Tutorial Island, the very first thing the player experiences in the game. If you choose to, you can join me as I depart on the quest to explore one of my favorite games of all time.